If there would be one phrase that would sum up this week's parasha Pekudey, it would be Kasher tzivah Hashem et Moshe, as God commanded Moshe. That is the phrase that is mentioned after almost every paragraph. While that might help make it easier for the Torah reader to read, why does the Torah keep going out of its way to say that whatever was made or done was just as God commanded Moshe, especially when in the previous parsha it was not mentioned even once? Vayakel and Pekudey describe the construction of very different types of objects. In Vayakel, they made all the big items, such as the menorah, the altar, the ark, the structure, and so on. For each one of these items, only one needed to be made. In Pekudey, in addition to the final assembly of the Mishkan, they also made all the clothes, spices, and vestments. These objects were not one time as by the big items from Vayakel. In order to have an operational Mishkan with many priests functioning within, they needed to make multiple copies of these items, as well as continuing to make them on an ongoing basis even after the dedication. It would stand to reason that making many duplicates of a given object would mean that each replica is actually slightly different from the other, as it was made by someone else, and no two people make something exactly the same way. However, the Torah testifies that nevertheless it was made just as God commanded Moshe, meaning each object, even though it might have been made by someone else, was made exactly the same as instructed by Moshe. It's not that they were acting mindless or robotic when they made the items. They weren't. The children of Israel were a nation in love with their God, and they wanted to make sure that everything was perfect, especially after the debacle of the golden calf. They followed the instructions down to the letter to make sure that what they did was exactly what was desired. It might have been a small act to restrain oneself from small improvisations, but it spoke volumes as to what they were thinking. Big acts might take center stage, but it's the small acts that reveal the inner self. And the Torah wanted to come praise Israel for their restraint and love of God. Israel might be a stiff-necked people, but when applied in the right way, it is only to their credit. Shabbat Shalom.